Welcome to Hoops Wednesday here on the Baseball Card Illustrated channel. This is the one day a week that Kevin, the Diamond and Free Throw Line King, and I, Bronco, the PSA 11, take a break from baseball and focus on
basketball.
Yay!
And tank tops, because you don't get to do that in baseball very much.
And shorter shorts from the early 1990s.
Don't I remember. I think I was the reason they put the longer shorts in place. They're like, man, lengthen that out.
Anyway, we came up with a three-pointer of autographs here this week on Hoops Wednesday as our heroes from the hardwood answered our mail and returned these cards from both the 1990-91 NBA Hoop set and 1991-92 Fleer set with an autograph. We'll get that bad boy started with the very underrated, and I hate to say it for the guy, but kind of forgotten Walter Davis.
Yeah, so, if you were to ask anybody now, even somebody who was a fan of basketball back then, how many years do you think Walter Davis played in the NBA? What do you think the average guess would be? 4, 5, 6?
I'm going to say probably 6, 7 years, and
Okay.
he averaged like 4 or 5 points off the bench or something.
The answer is 15, and he was a 6-time All-Star. 6 All-Star appearances.
I'm going to say, I don't. Do you have the stats on there?
I do.
Just rattle off these points per year, or you don't have the per year, you
I
just
can
have
get
the
those.
career. But just the numbers that he put up are kind of staggering for a guy that I think maybe, as you in Atlanta, me in the Milwaukee area as kids, you didn't really hear too much about what he did because, he wrapped up his career here, as you see, with the Nuggets, and he played before that with Phoenix. So it was always kind of a West Coast, different time zone thing in the Western Conference. But listen to these numbers per year.
So, he comes out the gate in his rookie year with 24.2 points per game, 23.6, 21.5. Then he was under 20 for a few years, then 20, then 15, and then we're talking way later now, we're talking into his 30s, 21.8, 23.6, 17.9. So he was a consistent scorer for a lot of years.
I was going to say, if someone did that today, I can't. Can you think of anybody that's kind of a comparable that, kind of came out hot, maybe took a year or two back, and then really hit it hard again, as he moved into like the second phase of his career and became an all-star again and things like that?
I thought Derrick Rose might reach that, but I don't know if he has that second wind quite the same in him. I don't think that kind of longevity is necessarily going to be the same for him as it was for Walter Davis.
I was going to say, you think of like Steve Nash, he had a great kind of second half of his career, but he didn't come out blazing like Walter Davis did early in his career with 20 points a game right off the bat.
No, and that's for Phoenix. Literally starting in that first year, which was 77-78, he was a force to be reckoned with, and spent more than a decade with Phoenix, then in Denver, which you're seeing here, and then real briefly in Portland, and then back to Denver to finish his career. And that means that one of the most underrated players is wearing one of the most underrated jerseys of the time. You can see that Nuggets logo there.
I was going to say, and it's kind of ironic that you used the word underrated, because I was just about to say he played with probably one of the more underrated forwards of the 1980s at the end of his career, Alex English.
Oh, wow. And Alex English was a guy, I feel like Alex English played 33 years in the NBA. I know it's not right, but it just feels that way. He is to the NBA what, oh my goodness, Bobby Hurley is to college basketball. Remember Bobby Hurley played 19 years at Duke? It's amazing.
I was going to say, it's kind of a similar thing here, talking with Walter Davis and bringing up Alex English. We got his card signed a couple weeks ago here on Hoops Wednesday, so
yeah.
We're doing pretty well with the Nuggets here and kind of overlooked and underappreciated forgotten stars.
I do not own a single NBA jersey. I maybe should buy a Nuggets throwback for the first jersey, because that's a wonderful, wonderful logo.
I was going to say, and they've kind of been going back to it here and there through the years now, so I think they recognize what they had.
That's value.
So Jim Les, and I'll let you see if you can find anything about him, but I'm going to point out what it says on the back of his card, which made me laugh. Les was a big surprise for the Kings and the entire NBA, it says here on the 1991 Fleer edition. You know what he averaged?
Hit it.
Wouldn't you think, that's got to be 14 points and 9 assists a game?
Yeah.
5 assists, 7 points.
So he was surprised in that people kept looking at their score sheets like, who? Who?
The water boy just went into the game and hit a couple threes and handed out a couple passes that led to baskets. Wow, that was pretty impressive.
So Jim Les, there are a couple of interesting things about Jim Les, who, by the way, right now is a coach with UC Davis. That's the team that he coaches, University of California, Davis. This is how far back this goes. Jim Les was a third-round pick in the NBA. They had those back then.
So he's coaching Walter Davis in California now?
UC Davis.
I sure do.
You see him right there. That was...
By the way, everybody, the bad jokes are free.
Yay! Yeah, so...
and plentiful.
Jim Les, the career for Jim Les is pretty incredible. So what you're seeing here, obviously, is him with Sacramento. And by the time he got to this point, his professional career, this is 91, right?
91, 92
So
player, yeah.
his career started in 1987. These were the teams he played for prior to the Kings.
Take a deep breath here so you're all set.
Rochester Flyers, Chicago Express, played with the Jazz, played with the Santa Barbara Islanders, played with the Clippers, played with the Saskatchewan Storm, played with the Omaha Racers, and then the Kings from 1990 to 94.
So he spent some time there in Sacramento.
He did. That was by far his longest stop, and then there was Omaha. There was a very brief time with the Hawks, and he finished with a club called CB Salamanca. There's something our friend Jaime would know about. CB Salamanca.
So there's more than you ever knew about Jim Les.
Coached at Bradley for a lot of years, coaches at UC Davis now.
Now, we may not have had a whole lot of insight about him, but here's a guy that you know a little bit about from your time growing up in Atlanta.
No, 100%.
It's double vision, John Koncak, or as they called him everywhere, but especially Atlanta, John Contract.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Koncak was... I think every franchise that goes through any sort of period where they're lovable but not really all that good ends up with stories like John Koncak, right? I mean, like, all I can think of is like the Cleveland Indians in the first half of Major League. You know, I think they were lovable, but they were bad. The grounds crew especially thought they were bad. John Koncak was sort of this symbol of what the Hawks were at that time. 5th pick overall, 1985, and again, this is a guy that comes in with the idea that he's going to change the nature of the franchise. Now, here's the funny thing to me. Koncak was 7 feet, and the main knock on him in Atlanta and when his time playing for the Hawks, and this is still pretty incredible to me, because it shows how much the game has changed. The big knock on him was he liked to go outside and shoot the outside shot and occasionally shoot the three, and people in Atlanta hated it. They were like, you have a 7-footer. What is your 7-footer doing out there? Why is he trying to shoot the outside shot? Why don't you let, you have how many other options, the early time in his career, you had Dominique, you had Spud Webb, Kevin Willis wouldn't have shot outside shots, but that is, like, Koncak looked like an out-of-place guy, but it's funny because in today's NBA, 7-footer shooting a three means nothing. It happens all the time.
But it's kind of funny, too, because another guy that was more than 7 feet tall. Manute Bol. Warriors fans loved it when he would occasionally shoot the three.
Yep.
So, you have that going on in Golden State, and here John Koncak, who I don't think it was so much the style as opposed to the contract that he signed. Nothing was going to make anybody happy at that point.
6 years, $13 million, which in 2020 dollars is like whatever.
A minimum contract.
Right, but in 1989, for someone who was not a star by any means, he wasn't technically really a starter for the Hawks in 1989, and he got a 6-year, $13 million contract, and it was like, that was enormous at the time. At the time he signed this, 1989, baseball still did not have its first $4 million a year player. I'm like 95% sure of that. No, that's true, because when Mark Langston went to the Angels, that was 5 years at $15 million, $3 million a year, and that was at the time the richest deal in baseball. So you're talking about $3 million got you the best player in the game on the baseball side. $2 million a year got you a reserve for the Hawks. So they were ridiculed for that contract, probably for good reason. Almost as much for the logo.
See, I always liked not the logo, the jersey. I've always liked that jersey.
Oh, the jersey's great. Now, maybe that should be my first basketball jersey. Real quick.
I was going to say, we've got some good jerseys. Well, you don't really see much of it. You see the logo there, but the jersey the Nuggets had was pretty sweet.
Oh, I'd take that in a heartbeat. So I have to make an admission here. I grew up in Atlanta, and I have to admit to you that...
Well, we won't hold it against you.
Thank you. Because you could for a lot of reasons back then. We used to have bumper stickers that said "Go Braves" and "Take the Falcons with you." That logo, that Hawks logo that you see, I thought it was a Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the hawk in it for years. And then there was a team. I was in middle school, and we were playing against a basketball team from another school, and they were using that logo. And somebody said, "Yeah, it's funny. It's a hawk, but it looks kind of like a Pac-Man." And I'm like, "No, it's not. It's a Pac-Man." They're like, "No, it's a hawk." And then that's the first time I saw that little, see the dot where the eye is? I thought it was a dot.
Or a power pellet.
Exactly. That's what Pac-Man eats, right?
Or the hawk only has one tooth.
So I'm seriously, I think I might have been 12 or 13 when I finally realized that was a hawk.
Well, I can't say anything about that because the Brewers logo is an M and a B. I always thought it was just a glove. I never put together that it was an M and a B.
Yeah, the letters.
With a baseball that kind of made the thing look like a B. So apparently we were too close to it to be able to see it for what it was.
No, it's true. It's amazing how clever, all of the stuff they've done in the teams in the 20s now, all the stuff they've done with all the fancy stuff that you can do now with designs and logos and stuff like that. And still, to me, the best logos and designs are those, like that Hawks logo, like that Nuggets logo. There's a reason why 35 years later they still go back to that.
I'm going to say, and this could be a completely different video at some point down the road, but we kind of went through a stage where every logo became like a letter with maybe something else attached to it.
Yes.
Like the whole idea of like, this is going to be the Hawks and this is going to be the Nuggets, and the M and the B being a glove for the Brewers.
Right.
And all those great logos through the years. And it kind of got simplified, and you're right, there's a reason they're going back to that. But anyway, we should probably wrap it up here, and appreciate the autographs we got, and
yes,
say thank you for watching. And if you like what you saw, please subscribe to the channel. I hope you have more success doing that than I had saying that.
Also, if you'd like to purchase us throwback jerseys, you can send it through the channel. We'll get you an address to send those in.
Or give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. We'd appreciate that
cheaper.
too. So anyway, I was going to say for myself, for Kevin, the Bronco... I'm a little confused here, okay?
Right.
It's the old jerseys. For Kevin, the Diamond and Free Throw Line King, I'm Bronco, the PSA 11, and we'd like to say thank you to Jim Less, John Konkak, and Walter Davis, and tell you that you've been watching the Baseball and sometimes Basketball Card Illustrated channel.